Hey, before we get into today's letter, I want to say something about last week. Last Monday, I read you a letter about mourning what could have been, about grieving the version of your life that never got to exist. If you sat with that one, if you actually let yourself name what you've been carrying, then you already know what tends to happen next. Because right after grief, comparison shows up. You finally let go of the thing, and then you open up your phone, and there it is. Somebody's living it. The marriage, the business, the healing that seems to be moving faster than yours, and that quiet voice starts up. You should be further along by now. That voice is who today's letter is for. This one comes straight out of my journals from a season when I was convinced I had wasted years God couldn't give me back. I was wrong about that, and let me tell you why. This is an open letter to the woman who feels behind. Hey friend, welcome back to Real with Melanie. If you ever looked around and felt like you're behind in life, like everyone else has it figured out and you just feel stuck, then this episode is for you. So take a deep breath and let's get real. Dear you, yes you, the one who feels like running out of time. I see you, scrolling through social media, wondering why everyone else seems to be ahead, watching friends build families, businesses, and lives while you feel stuck in the same patterns. Hearing people say, you should be further along by now, and believing it. You don't say out loud, but I know the thoughts that haunt you at night. I should have been healed by now. I should have figured out my purpose already. I wasted too much time on the wrong people, the wrong career, and the wrong choices. God, did I miss it? Did I miss what you had for me? And if you're really honest, it's not just about where you are right now. It's the grief of where you thought you would be. The version of you that was supposed to have it all together by now. You thought you would have been married by now, or that marriage would feel different than what it does. You thought you have kids, or that season of motherhood will look easier than it really is. You thought that you have a thriving career. You thought you'd be healed, confident, and walking boldly in your calling. But instead, you feel like you're playing catch up in a race you never prepared to run. And I need you to hear me when I say this. You are not behind. Let me say it again, louder for the parts of your heart that refuse to believe it. You are not behind. Not in your career, not in your healing, not in your spiritual walk, not in your life, because behind implies that there was a schedule, a timeline, a deadline where you were supposed to meet. But God never puts those deadlines on you. The world did. Culture did. Comparison did. Your family's expectations did. Your inner critic did. But God does not measure your worth by how quickly you reach milestones. You serve a God who exists outside of time. You let a man-made timeline determine your peace. And I know it's hard to let go of that feeling that you should be further along. I know the weight of your wasted years, wrong turns, and starting over. I know what it's like to feel like your life has been a cycle of setbacks while everyone else is sprinting towards success. I write about this in my book, Kingdom Happily Ever After, in Lesson 18, Living from Identity, Not Insecurity. Because for most part of my life, milestones were how I measured my worth. If I was chosen, invited, accomplished, then I felt safe. And in one session, my therapist asked me a question that I could not answer. If no one clapped for you, who would you be? I said in silence, because I had built my whole identity on catching up. The answer was never going to come from reaching a milestone. It was only ever going to come from Christ. But here's what I need you to understand. You are exactly where you're meant to be. Not because you did everything right, not because you have it all figured out, but because God is the Redeemer of time. Joel 2:25 says, I will give you back what you lost to the swarming locust. You feel behind because you're looking at everybody else's race, but your path was never supposed to look like theirs. God doesn't rush, He develops. And sometimes what feels like delay is actually preparation. Maybe that relationship didn't work out because God was protecting you. Maybe that career door closed because He was redirecting you. Maybe that healing journey is taking longer because He's teaching you endurance. You don't need to rush to catch up. You need to trust the God who sees the full picture. And let's be real. The enemy wants you to believe that you're behind. Because if you believe that lie, you'll move in desperation instead of discernment. You'll settle for relationships God never called you to. You'll say yes to things out of fear instead of faith. You'll waste energy comparing, regretting, and striving instead of resting and trusting. So let me ask you this. What if you stop rushing? What if you let yourself believe that you're exactly where you're supposed to be? What if you actually trusted that God's timing is perfect? Because here's the truth. When you're walking with God, you cannot miss what's meant for you. Your story isn't late. Your purpose isn't lost. And nothing, absolutely nothing you have been through is wasted. Not the detours, not the delays, not the heartbreaks, not the lessons you learned the hard way. Everything is working together for your good. Every wrong turn is being rerouted. Every piece of your past is being redeemed. So breathe, sis. Breathe. Take the pressure off. Throw away the timeline. You're not behind. You're right where you're supposed to be. And trust me, when God's timing unfolds, it will make perfect sense. Until then, stop striving and start trusting because you are already enough right here, right now. If this episode spoke to you, I want you to sit with it for a second. Let it sink in. Write it down. And if you need a reminder later, come back and listen to it again. And hear me on this. If you spent this whole season believing you fell behind, you have the permission to start over. Right now. Not when you feel like you've caught up. Today counts as a starting line. If you've been feeling like you're behind, I want you to DM me on Instagram at Miss Melanie Reyes and tell me what spoke to you today. This is the kind of conversation that needs to be had. And if you want to go deeper into this, grab my Kingdom Happily Ever After book. Lesson 18 is called Living from Identity, Not Insecurity. And it walks you through exactly how to stop measuring your worth by milestones. You could find it at kingdomhappilyeverafter.com. And if this episode met you right where you are, would you take 30 seconds to leave me a review? It's the number one way for another woman to find this show. Your words might be the reason she stops feeling alone. I love you, I see you, and I believe in the women you are becoming.